Margaret Brennan, of course, following this, joins us with the latest from the White House. And again, Margaret, this is just one of many cases where Vladimir Putin and the Russians have looked to undermine the United States. We have then heard the president say there will be a response. Is there any sense of what exactly it might be?
Well, the White House has been debating that response for months. We know that they are considering sanctions on senior Russian intelligence officials and also a proportional cyber attack. But just what that would be is not clear at this point. What we know is European sources tell me that over the past year, there has been a significant uptick in Russian intelligence operations and hacking in Europe. The fear is to disrupt elections upcoming there. And when you talk to intelligence officials, whether in the U.S. or abroad, they see a common connection here that Russia is really looking to shake up and undermine some of the Western powers, be it whoever sits here in the White House or whoever is elected to power in Europe, as sort of a pushback to what has been concern about Russian aggression in Ukraine and certainly the disruption in Syria that has led to that massive refugee crisis that has destabilized many countries within Europe and the Middle East.
Now, in his interview with NPR, the president also expressed, rather frankly, frustration with Donald Trump and his stance, other Republicans' stance, much softer as it regards Vladimir Putin and Russia. If nothing else, how is this going to impact a transition that to this point has been largely without issue?
Well, immediately after Donald Trump won the election, and the White House admits they didn't expect him to, they made the point. President Obama, from the top down, said this has to be a peaceful, orderly transition. President-elect Trump is elected the leader of all Americans. Let's respect that. They've tried not to take disputes public. That changed dramatically once Donald Trump started attacking what are believed to be apolitical institutions like the intelligence community that is supposed to be focused primarily on national security, something that Republican Senator Lindsey Graham and others argue should be something that unifies all Americans and not viewed through a partisan lens. So you are hearing that from some on Capitol Hill, certainly from here at the White House up until yesterday when Josh Earnest, the White House spokesperson, really started pushing back at Donald Trump, saying, stop attacking the intelligence community, Americans putting their lives on the line and risking so much to help protect America by calling them and their conclusions into question here. Have a probe, don't make it political. Of course, when it comes to Donald Trump's view of this, he has acknowledged their cyber attacks, but questions the intention behind raising these issues, saying it's really to undermine him. So it's really national security viewed through this partisan lens, and that is destabilizing to basic institutions. And that, some would say, is ultimately something Vladimir Putin would like to see. Just what a possible alliance between the U.S. and Russia could possibly look like under Trump administration is not clear at this point. We know that the Obama administration had tried to really coordinate with Russia in Syria, airstrikes against al-Qaeda and ISIS, and those flatly failed. The State Department says 80% of the airstrikes that Moscow has carried out in Syria have been against U.S.-backed rebels, not the terrorists that the U.S. and the rest of the international community say they are there to fight.
And I know that after that meeting between Vladimir Putin and President Obama at the G20, that the coordination that perhaps we might have expected disappeared shortly thereafter. Obviously, the president will take a question or two today regarding this topic. What else to expect?
Yes, this will be what we expect to be the last press conference of 2016 before President Obama heads off for his Christmas vacation to Hawaii, as he typically does. You've got to believe not only that this controversy over Russia will be discussed, but also questions about the slaughter underway in Syria. Yesterday, you had Secretary of State John Kerry compare what's happening in Aleppo to the 1995 Srebrenica genocide, saying that the killing is really unabated. And overnight, we have seen even the latest attempt at a ceasefire crumble. So we have to believe that President Obama is going to speak to that. And there are many who question whether the White House's decision not to intervene in Syria contributed to the situation we're in now. Also overnight, Donald Trump says for the first time since he was elected president-elect that he's for creating safe zones in Syria, something President Obama said would be way too much of a U.S. military involvement there. So a lot to ask President Obama about today.
It will certainly be a large part of a legacy yet to be determined. Margaret Brennan at the White House, as always, we do appreciate it.